Hi, I'm Nate Sutton. I'm in the Precision Department at Eldon C. Stutzman in Hills, Iowa. My main focus is Raven, and today we're going to go through setting up an RCM for a fast valve and hydrous bar. So this is the base RCM control unit right here. In the box, you will find 3 magnets and 3/4 inch bolts, and they are used to actually mount the RCM to a flat piece of steel. You just screw them in and tighten them up. The RCM magnets are strong enough that I have mounted them on 6x6 square tube and they do not fall off. The next step in the assembly, this is the actual RCM harness. The 2 big plugs are what actually plugs into the RCM, and they are color coded. The gray one plugs into the gray side. The big black one plugs into the black side. And they also include a dust cap that goes into the center. The center port is not used in this application. We use the center port when we get into multi-product applications and we need more inputs and outputs. One of the really nice things about this RCM setup is almost all of the plugs are unique, so it's almost virtually impossible to plug this in wrong. This is the end of the RCM harness, and that's where we're going to plug our front extension harness into. Front extension harness has a stainless steel end that plugs into your tractor, a fuse holder that actually protects the RCM, a master switch connector, and then the John Deere style connector that actually plugs into the RCM harness. It's as simple as picking the right connector, and on the back side of this connector there's 2 little divots, and they go with the clip, and that locks them in. Same with this one. When you're done locking them in, clip the red and the white ahead and it locks them together so they can't be pulled apart on the toolbar. This is the terminator harness that comes with the front extension kit. It's the same connector. We have to terminate the end of the line so the CAN bus is happy. This one is just a dust plug. The terminator does not use high current power. Lock the caps in so it doesn't accidentally fall off. And we're hooked up to the front extension harness now to go up into the tractor. This is the product harness that goes with the RCM. I selected a 6-section product harness to show everybody this. This is capable of doing 6 sections. There's 2 pressure transducer connections, a master valve connection, a master on-off connection, and a flow meter connection. If you have an HP system, which is the pump on the Vortex cooler, there's a connector for the control valve that runs that, and then there's also a separate pressure transducer one for the HP system. This is a 47-pin connector on this side that actually connects to the 47 pin right here. It's keyed. You cannot push it on wrong, and don't force it. It goes on very easily when you get the keys lined up. On the front extension harness, there's 2 high current power fuses back here that also help protect the valves down on the line. This is the master switch harness. On this harness, you have a gray connector right here that plugs into the front extension. You have your foot pedal master switch harness right there. And then this one is for implement steering constant power. If you are not running instant implement steering on your machine, you do not need to plug this into anything. On the front extension harness that plugs into the tractor, plugs into the gray one right here. It's keyed, so you cannot plug it in wrong. And fits together like that. The last piece is the master pedal. This goes in your cab. This enables and disables the system. It plugs in to that connector right there. This has to be in the cab for you to enable and disable the system. Raven does not allow an on-screen switch or not to have a master switch in the system. This bracket right here can mount above your IBBC connector on your tractor, and this gray plug for the foot pedal on the tractor side will mount right through the hole, and you can leave it permanently mounted on the tractor and not have to have it dangling by your SCVs or anything. It is also included in the foot pedal switch kit. So with our front extension harness that comes in the kit, This is a dust shield you can use when the bar is not hooked up to a tractor to keep the pins from being damaged. Your IBBC connector in the back of your tractor will look similar to this. Today I'm using a Raven Viper 4 monitor just for demonstration. The actual screens we'll see will look almost identical on any brand of monitor. So inside the front extension harness, there's two big pins. The biggest pin goes to the top, always plugs in. We will get lights on our RCM. They'll turn red, be red at first, and they'll turn green. This just means it's loading. On almost all displays under the UT, it will have a bar that will tell you what our progress is of the object pool loading in, so the RCM's loading on the monitor currently. So once the UT is loaded on your display, which can take a while, the lights on your RCM, you'll have green. Yellow means that we don't have a program in there. We're going to run through the setup of a fast valve system on a Raven RCM. The RCM can store up to 8 different profiles. So we're going to start a new profile. So we're going to name our new profile. We're going to select our machine type. We're doing an NH3 tool. We're going to do a 60-foot toolbar, and we're going to hit the next button and go to the next page. We're doing one RCM connected to the system in one product, so we'll hit the next button. We're going to select our application type. NH3 HP Plus would be a unit that has a boost pump on the cooler. NH3 is what we're going to set up today. Just a standard vortex and hydro system. We're not going to use the aux in this application. We'll hit the next button. We're going to select our number of sections. We'll put 2 sections in. If both of our sections are equal, you can hit the equal width button and it will automatically do the math and split the 2 sections up for you. If you do not have equal width sections, there's a 17 or 19 knife bar, an odd numbered bar. You would uncheck that box and we would enter our section widths. Number 1 is always left. Driver's side. So we have a 35-foot driver's side and a 25-foot passenger side. We do not use any auxiliary drivers in this application. We can actually use the RCM to turn on lights, run winches, anything that is a low voltage draw for the RCM. We'll hit the next button. Here's our summary. 35-foot, 25-foot, section 1, section 2. If we have pressure sensors hooked up to the system, here's where we would pick it out. 0 to 250 is what a Raven pressure transducer rating is at. In this system, I'm not putting any pressure transducers on it. If you have a height switch, here's where we select our height switch. Most of you are going to pick default. That is a standard on-off height switch. Some applications, probably not in hydros bars, will use a digital one, and that's more of a potentiometer that measures how it goes up and down. So now, right now it says it's a dual valve system. Well, we're going to set up a fast valve system. And in this RCM, it is an AccuFlow single valve. We'll hit that. Our valve response rate is how fast it reacts to rate changes when it's going through the field. Control deadband is how far it lets it get off rate before it tries to make a rate change going through the field. Our control effort is how fast it drives the valve to rate changes. So if it's too slow coming to rate, we are going to raise this number up so it gets to rate faster. If it's shooting past and bouncing all the time, it can't lock onto a rate, we're going to lower that number back down. I can't tell you a set number for that, especially in a fast valve system. That is something you're going to have to get in the field and run this and see how your driving style, your toolbar, your tanks, what they allow. 35 is a typical starting point on these. I have seen them much higher than that on older systems that have older valves. Here's where I put our flow meter calibration in. Typically an old system has a 172. The newer ones, the flow meter cal is in the 340s. We'll hit next. Here's where we can put our tank capacities in. So if we're pulling a single tank, we can put about a 4,400 pounds of N in there. Our current tank level, which would more than likely be about 85%. We can also set a low tank level alarm. So if we want it to alarm us when our tank's down to 10%, you can actually set that alarm. And when it gets down to about 440 pounds of N in the tank, it will actually alarm you to let you know you're starting to get empty. Here's where we set our preset rates up, so we can put 100 pounds in there. You have to have one. You do not have to fill all 3 of these out, but you do have to have rate 1 in there. Here's our predefined RX. Predefined RX means that it will pull it off of the monitor. So if you're running a prescription map, it will pull the rate from the prescription map first and use your preset values second. If we drop it down, we do not use rate bump or RX in this application. So if we change it to UT rate entry, it will only look to the UT rate entry on the main page of the RCM. It will ignore all prescription maps that are on that monitor. Hit the next. Here's our off rate alarm. 20% is pretty typical where most guys run this. Our section valve status feedback alarm. What that does is the 4th wire on the section valves actually send a signal back to the RCM to tell the RCM whether it's open or closed. This is only good on the new valves. If you're running an older system with the older stainless steel brackets on your valves, this will not work. It will alarm at you all the time because the 4th wire is not installed in those valve motors. I recommend most people leave this off. If you do have a brand new system, you are welcome to turn it back on or turn it on, and it will actually tell you if you have a valve motor fail. We'll hit the next button. Now it's going to give us a setup. We're a fast valve, we're an NH3 tool. We have 1 product, 2 sections, and we're 60 foot wide. Now it's going to reboot the UT. This can take 3 or 4 minutes. There's several different things depending on what brand of monitor you're running, it will say. So now we're going to get into a little bit of RCM operation. The home button always takes you back to the main run page. No matter whether I'm on this one or anywhere, it always takes us back to the main run page. So over here is our product 1. This is your anhydrous product. If we have a sidekick pump hooked up to it, product 2 will actually be right below it. This button right here is your manual or automatic button. The RCM gives us the ability in anhydrous to manually run the bar. So what that allows us to do is if we're working on the bar in the yard or we want to test valves with the bar discharged, we can slip a test speed in simply by holding down on the speed button right there, and it puts a test speed in. Turn our product on, we hit our master switch, and then we can use the plus and minus arrows to open and close the control valve. In automatic mode, it will automatically control to a rate in the field. One of the big advantages of a manual mode is, let's say we're in the field and we're applying anhydrous and your rate's jumping all over the place and you can't get it to control and you can't figure out whether it's a flow meter, strainer, or a bad tank. Click it into manual, hit the plus button, get your rate close to what you're applying. If it stays steady when you do that, that tells us you probably have a control valve or a wiring issue. If it stays crazy the whole time, then we probably either have a flow meter or a strainer issue or cooler issue as far as that goes. Flip it back into automatic. When you flip it into automatic, up here we have rate 1, rate 2, and rate 3. As you're going through the field, you can actually tap on that and it will actually change the rate for you on the RCM as you're going through the field. No need to come in here and type. If you want to, you can come up here and type in a manual rate and it will also do it up there. And the second you hit one of those buttons, it'll take it back to one of your 3 predefined rates. The gears is where everything is set up and done in the RCM. One of the really nice things about an RCM is we can move this from product to product. We can store up to 8 profiles on this RCM. So if your co-op or your farm has an anhydrous bar, a dry spreader, and a side dresser, this one unit can actually store the profiles and run all 3 of those pieces of equipment. It's as simple as hitting change new, selecting a new one, and going through the steps we just went through previously. We can also go in, and there's a few things you have to edit. You can't change after you've got your profile set up if you select the wrong valve type. If you select fast valve and it's a 2-valve system, you have to select edit to go back and change it to a fast valve system. You cannot do that unless you're editing it. If you want to get rid of your profile, you hit the remove button, it asks you yes, and away it goes. Our section setup summary is also another summary spot where we can go see to make sure that our sections are set up correctly. Our precision farming setup. When we come into here, this wizard will allow us to actually set the widths and the offsets, and if there happens to be an overlap on your anhydrous bar, we can also set that up in there. We will never do a product delay on this. If we have an offset hitch for some reason, we can actually set it up so it's left of center and put it in there. We do want to come in here though and set our distance from the rear axle to the application point. And if it's an anhydrous bar with staggered sections, you kind of pick a spot in the middle. You'll never be exactly right, but it'll be close enough for anhydrous so it'll do a good job. We also want to do a distance from the connection point, which is your hitch, back to the center axle. And that allows us to get your section control, the timing correct when you go in the field. On RCMs, on John Deere's and case monitors, you will not use this. There are some monitors that we actually do the section time on the RCM. For the majority of them, we do not do that. We hit the wrench up here. Here's our control valve setup. So if we need to change some settings on this, if your control valve is not responding how you want, this is where we go so we can change our control effort. Rate sensor setup, that's your flow meter. So you can actually come in here and change your flow meter cal. We can actually do an applied product calibration with this. So if you get your scale tickets, you can actually apply that tank out. The downside of that is you cannot apply again until you get your scale back because it doesn't store it for you. So you hit your applied product calibration, you run that tank off, they have to take the tank back to town right away and scale it and call the numbers back to you. Because if you try to go onto the next tank, you're going to have the next scale ticket added into it to get your flow meter calibration correct. If it's a new bar, the Raven flow meters are really accurate. You shouldn't have to calibrate it right away. Here's where we can change our tank fill settings. You can change the numbers. If you're pulling singles instead of doubles, you can change your numbers there. Another neat thing about the RCM is this whole menu right here, we can set and put anything in there you want. So that's under the display menu setup. You select a tab and you can change it to anything they have in here. If you're doing dry, you can do density, we can do volume per minute. You can do your total volume applied. You can put your acres in there if you want to know what your acres are, how many acres you've covered. And it actually changes it right there on the screen. If we have a pressure transducer, like I said, we can change it afterwards. We can add one in here. If you got a flaky one that's not working in the field, you can come in here and turn it off so it quits alarming at you all the time. And we're not going to use auxiliary functions at all on anhydrous. This is mostly for dry and air seeder. The bell is for our off rate alarm, and we can also, if you have pressure transducers, you can actually set up pressure alarms also. The drip is where we change our preset rates and where we can also change whether we want to do a UT rate entry or a predefined. The padlock is where we unlock additional features. So if you move this to a strip till bar that has dry and anhydrous, we can actually put an unlock on this that will do multiple products. The 1, 2, 3 is all of our totals. The first one is for the field. The second one is the lifetime of the device. And the third one, we can actually calibrate distance if you're using a wheel speed. Do not attempt this if you are using GPS or radar. The bottom one with the heartbeat with the green bell, this is all of our system information. So if we're diagnosing something, you got a problem, we can actually come in here and see everything that it's doing. There's actually tests we can run. You can energize a system. So if you want to charge your bar before you get going the first time in the year, you can actually pull up in the headland, hit energize system, run through it. It'll actually open the valves and put anhydrous all the way to the knives. The control valve test allows you to open and control the control valve sitting in the yard without dispensing any product. The bleed system test, when you're done for the end of the year or you got to work on it, you can actually go into the bleed system test, sitting still, get yourself upwind and make sure nobody's around you. You can actually hit the bleed system test, hit the master, and it'll actually bleed the anhydrous out of the bar. Don't use demonstration mode, service diagnostic feedback test, or the service menu is Raven's the only one that has access to that. The bell is where we find our errors. So if we have active errors on this, it'll tell us. And if you click on it, it'll highlight it. It'll actually tell you what the error means. So we have switch supply voltage low is an inactive one, and then the other one doesn't want to show up. There you go. We were not calibrated. So that was our other error. The inactive ones, you can always hit clear and they all go away. You can never clear active errors. Next button is just another spot where we can see our summary. And the third one is another summary that tells us control valve type, what our target rate is, valve response rate, and all the basics of the system. Here are some things that are commonly missed on RCMs. This red dot here means that product 1 is off. So if you want to apply anhydrous, or if you have a sidekick pump and you want to pump your in-serve in, you have to have the green eye there for it to apply. The second thing is this is manual and automatic. This, when you put it in manual, allows you to manually control the control valve. So some of the advantages of that is if you're having rate fluctuations issues going through the field, you can actually turn this over to manual, lock it into a rate close of what you're applying. If the toolbar stays on that rate, we do not have a flow meter issue. We more than likely have a control valve or a control issue. If it keeps fluctuating after you lock it onto a rate, that tells us we either have tank issue, strainer issue, or a flow meter issue. Another neat function, if we hold down on the 85% right there, it lets us put our product levels in. So if you have an actual scale ticket that tells you exactly what you have in the tank for anhydrous, you can put it in there and it'll say 100% and it'll count down for you. If you're constantly doing doubles and you know you're about 8,800 pounds, if you hit that, it will always take you back to 100% tank level, simply by hitting that bar right there. If you are sitting still and you want to run the anhydrous to blow some smoke to try to fix a problem or bleed the bar, hold down on the mile per hour right there. It pops up to where we can put a test speed in. Shut your section control off. If you do that, you can actually hit your master switch to bleed the bar down. On an RCM that does not have an external switch box, if we hit the switch box button right there, we can actually turn the left or right sections off with the monitor. Hit all on, it turns both sections back on again. This is useful in some situations where maybe you're hanging over a bean field a little bit, or you're double applying and you don't want to turn section control on. There's multiple reasons you'd want to be able to do this. We're going to show you the connections on a fast valve hooking up to an RCM quick. This is a 6-section product harness. We have 6 sections, a master on off, a control valve, 2 pressure transducers, a height switch, and a connector for the HP pump on here. The flow meter, it's a 3-pin one with a lock ring on it. There is an alignment tab, so you can't mess it up. Don't force it. Get it to align, hook it up, spin the lock ring, and it's in. Each one of these is labeled section 1 through 6, master on off, and control valve. In a fast valve system, we do not use the master on off. So it actually comes with a cap on it. You'll just put the cap on it to keep the weather out. We'll take the control valve one that's marked right there. It has a lock ring on it. It's 4 pins. It also has a locating ring on, or locating tab in it. We'll hook it up to the fast valve. The way you can tell you have a fast valve, it will, most of them, if it hasn't weathered off, will still have a silver sticker on it. 743 is a fast valve, 2123 is a standard valve setup. The sections run left to right. So we'll find section 1. This is an on-off for a section valve. The lock ring is located on it. It's a 4-pin connector and also has a locating pin on it. And that would hook up to section 1. If you're installing a pressure transducer in your system, this is a Raven pressure transducer with a triangle Deutsch connector on the top. You would actually find the harness that is labeled pressure 1 gauge tree. Plug it in, and you are ready to go. In the system menu, you can hit the heartbeat. We can hit the check sheet and go to tests. If we drop down and go to energize system, hit begin, it's warning us that if we do continue on with this, it is going to dispense anhydrous. We hit that. We hit our master switch. We hit start. It will actually open all the ball valves and energize the system, and will allow anhydrous to flow through there. So if you're a new bar that's been sitting all winter, this will allow you to charge the system and have anhydrous all the way to your section valves, so that when you start applying, you don't have that 200, 300, 400 feet where you don't apply anything. Another test we can run is a system bleed test. We hit OK. Again, we're going to dispense anhydrous if we follow the instructions. So we need to hit the 1 and the 2 to turn those 2 sections on. We hit the master pedal and we hit start. What this does is it opens the whole system and leaves it open until we tell it to stop. The advantage of this is if you're going to work on a bar, you're storing it for winter, you just want to test stuff in the shop, this is a way to get everything to open up all the way and allow you to either bleed the bar down or make sure that all componentry is working and connected. Hit the master, turns everything off, and we're good to go on to our next job. Thank you for watching. If you have more questions, please give us a call and ask for the Precision Department.